Thanks for coming out to the 3-day Breaking Bad golf camp here on the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
Kieran, basically all I want to do here is I want to ask you just a couple of questions like, how did you hear about me? Why did you decide you want to come all the way from New Zealand to come over for these 3 days? Kind of what space were you in over there where you thought, I think I need this for my game? What would you say?
It's a combination of things. I couldn't exactly tell you how I came across you specifically, but, I watch a lot of golf on YouTube, and I'm pretty sure you would have come up with a suggested, video or something. And I think one of the very early videos that I watched would have been, it was probably something relevant to me right at the time, but the feeling I got from it was about playing better through smarter decisions as opposed to purely technique-based solutions. So that really resonated with me at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happened that I had a wife who was open to the idea of having 10 days.
I told you how she's my favourite wife.
Yes.
Apart from mine. That's all right. Where was your golf game at that point, handicap scoring?
I'm a relatively competent player. I play off about a 7 handicap, 5 course handicap at home. So I'm shooting, I'm breaking 80 a fair bit of the time,
mm-hmm.
but probably making the same mistakes to really limit my taking that next step, that next move forward to be a much better club player. And I felt that I was just making the same mistakes enough that a set of eyes on my game was appropriate.
Okay. So we've now done 3 days of the camp. So the first thing was to get out on the golf course and do an initial assessment, because obviously I hadn't seen your golf game before. But so we went and did 9 holes there. Introduce you to the method that I use there for just basically assessing your own golf game. So it's different stats. It's not the greens and reg and and fairways hitting stuff. It was basically identifying where's the strengths and weaknesses in your game, and particularly the ones that you're not seeing. And it's also marking the mental side of the game. So is it technique that's causing the problem, or is it more decision making? And so we went through all that, and then we do some training based all around. Here's the basic skills that all of us need to kind of get better at the game in whatever level we're at. What were your thoughts then after a couple of days of doing that? So we did the assessment. We've done a lot of training on the range, on the putting green, around the chipping green. And then we also went back out on the golf course yesterday to do a bit of on-course training. What were the first things that started jumping out at you then once we started going, we did the assessment? What was the first thing you said, oh, wow, I didn't know that?
It's probably the emphasis on preparation for each shot, I think, is something which, we've talked about it when you play at your own club course, often, as we all do. 90% of my rounds are at one golf course, and you get very familiar with your environment, familiar with recovering from the misses, and your misses are usually more often than not the same misses.
Yeah, we're creatures of habit, aren't we?
Yeah. So probably the benefits of really focusing and preparing on the shot in front of you at any given time.
Yep.
I think that was something which really stuck with me very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was probably the big one. The expectation of outcome, and we've talked a lot about shoulda, woulda, coulda.
If only, don't forget
yes, and if only, yep. And even, after our full round today, I think I probably slipped that in there a few times. And possibly the other thing that really, really stuck with me within the first couple of days is targets.
Yep.
And the appropriate target, particularly when coming into greens.
What does that mean?
Not just automatically trying to hit to the pin. That's having a look at, again, it's probably not the right way to put it, but, less focus on throwing a dart in for a birdie as opposed to putting yourself in a position where, you should be making a very comfortable par.
Yeah.
Or if you've had to recover to that point, making the comfortable bogey and not letting it get away.
Yeah, big time. So I think a couple of things there. The expectation levels compared to reality of your golf game, and even the golf pros aren't as good as you think they are.
Yeah.
And understanding that if you can start to play much more conservative golf, you can actually end up scoring that a lot better, because I think that it was pretty obvious to you that the number one thing that was affecting the scores is a couple of blowout holes more than anything.
Yeah.
And so we determined, and I know that it was pretty much not anything to do with your technique and your ball stroking and stuff like that. It was definitely a lot of decision making, clarity about why you pick a certain type of shot and a certain type of target. And as soon as I started explaining a lot of that stuff, I think today on our last round, you actually were having a lot of problems and you're very indecisive about your hybrid and long par five second shots. And should I be doing this? And very indecisive. And I can see it was the indecision that was killing your golf swing. It wasn't actually, a problem with you not knowing what to do or how to do it. It wasn't skill. It was purely some of the decisions you were making causing a lot of indecision. So we focused heavily on that, didn't we? Like, to go, right, how do you become decisive far more often so that you can then stand up with a lot more freedom about what you're doing? So you're heading back to New Zealand. We have the CoachNow app that we're going to use. You're going to have access to that. I'm looking forward to that. So you're looking forward to that. What is it the next few months going to look like for you in terms of our relationship coaching wise? What are you going to do?
Well, the journal that you gave me, I really want to get familiar with using that. And just start to be a little bit more aware of how the round has gone, where the mistakes have been, and hopefully trying to learn what caused the mistake, as opposed to okay, I just put a bad swing on it. So the actual why was it a bad swing and stuff. The real critical things.
That's what I'd like to say to most of my clients is I'm trying to teach you how to be your own coach. Which is that you're kind of looking at things a bit more objectively and not so much emotionally, and then you can kind of go, this is what I really need to work on. Then you can go and work on that and see the results. And you're just constantly going through that feedback loop yourself. And then with the beauty of the app is you've got me over your shoulder there just watching in, and like your autopilot, if you're heading down the wrong path, just bump you back on course just quick. It's not quite that. Just go and check this video out instead. This is more what you need to be doing, or read this chapter in the workbook again or something. And before you've gone 200 k's off track, we bumped you back in 200 metres off track, and it's much easier to get back to where you need to go. What would you say to other people who are on the fence about this, whether they should come and do something like this?
I think you could be a golfer of any level and you will take something away from it.
Nice.
I regard myself as a reasonably confident golfer with aspirations to be better than that. I've got some goals that I want to achieve, even after having played the game for a long time. And I think anyone could benefit from possibly taking what you might regard it as maybe not the traditional approach to game improvement. But I think game improvement as opposed to swing improvement.
There you go, lessons versus coaching. You're exactly right. Swing improvement versus game improvement.
And I still think I got enough technical information from the 3 days we've shared.
It's not to say that's the big one. I talk about 90% of people's problems got nothing to do with a golf swing, but that still leaves 10%. So there's definitely a bit of there. But my biggest issue with that is the fact that I've been around this game so long, playing golf. So many people stand there as a golf pro playing alongside someone going, you think your backswing is the problem here? I've got 15 things I can show you did wrong in the last hole. Decision making wise, like it's just crazy. And I've been doing it for so long, just helping people to play the game of golf better. And if you're a serious practicer and if you're someone who's serious about getting a game, focus on the lowest hanging fruit first. While still focusing on a bit of technique, while still doing those things to build your skill level. I think it's very important. So I think you mentioned, was it your cousin or your uncle or someone 28 handicap?
That
you think he'd be right to come and do like someone like that? Would he get a lot out of it?
Oh, a huge amount. Because I think as much as anything, a different set of eyes or a different voice, we all play with our mates. We all play with better players than ourselves who probably can impart really good advice. And they're doing it from the standpoint of being very good players themselves. And the common sort of response to be, well, it's an easy thing for you to say. You play off it too.
Exactly right.
So I think as much as anything, small corrections, small improvements in the right areas are going to have a bigger impact than someone trying to rebuild a swing.
Because that's my whole goal. My mantra, my creed, whatever you want to call it, is to to help people play the game better. And I know that most people, the vast majority of golfers, don't have enough time to practice, they don't have enough time to play as much as they want and all that. So I kind of really want to go, okay, the time that you do get to spend at golf, whether it's practice or playing, make the greatest return on investment of your time you can get for that amount of time. And then when you get more time, you'll know what to spend it on and how to do it and things. So that's the idea. Hopefully you're there. Thank you very much.
No, you're welcome.
Appreciate your time.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate.